Hey guys, so for this short video, we're going to talk about a specific part of the scientific process. During the scientific process, you're going to be forming a question and figuring out a way to answer that question, but then eventually you're going to gather evidence. And so I want to talk about a couple different types of evidence here. So, like I said, there are two types of evidence that we can gather in an experiment or in science class or something like that. And the first is qualitative. So, I want to break down what that word qualitative means because it's a big word and it's going to help if we figure out what it means. So, if someone walks up to you and says, "You have a lot of nice qualities about you," what they're really saying is that you have some nice characteristics. You have some nice things about you. So, for example, you might be a nice person, or you might be supportive, or friendly, or encouraging, or something like that. These are all qualities about you. And so, the thing about qualities is that they're not actually a measurement of anything, they're just these gut feelings that we have about things. So, if I say that you are a really uplifting and encouraging person, I'm not saying that I'm measuring anything about you. I'm just telling you what my perspective is on your character. And so qualitative evidence are not measured. They're just descriptions of the quality of something. So, for example, I can witness that something got bigger or something got smaller, or that the color changed from blue to red, or how something feels or tastes or smells, right? These are all just descriptions of what's going on, but there's not actually any numbers or measurement involved in them. So these are called qualitative evidence. The other type, of course, does involve measurements and does involve numbers, and these are known as quantitative evidence. And so quantitative measurements always involve measurements, and these measurements tell you the amount of something or the number of something. This sort of data always has units to it. So, for example, I can say, you're 6 feet tall. Or if you look at someone and say, wow, they're really big, well, you could say that they are 300 pounds. Or, wow, that person is really fast. Well, maybe they have a 100-meter dash time of 10 seconds. So these units, these numbers, are things that we measure about something. And so that's what the word quantitative means. And the root word of quantitative is quantity. So if I ask you, like if you're shopping for something on Amazon, on Amazon they'll ask you what quantity of something that you want. So if you're buying, say, colored pencils, it'll ask you what quantity of colored pencils do you want, and you might say that you want 6 packs of colored pencils, or you might say you want 24 colored pencils or something like that. Well, it's asking you a quantitative question, a question that it expects you to provide an answer for that has numbers or units or something like that. So, just so you can understand the difference here, let's play a bit of a game. So, I have a qualitative statement on the left, and I want to transform it into a quantitative statement on the right. So, for example, if we have an experiment where we grow a plant in Miracle Grow and we grow the same plant in different soil, we can observe that the plant in Miracle Grow grew taller. Now, I can convert that to a quantitative statement by saying that the Miracle Grow plant was 5 feet tall while the other plants were 3 feet tall. So here, what I'm adding is this measurement, 5 feet and 3 feet, and that's what makes it a quantitative piece of evidence, because I actually went and measured the height of each plant. Also, we could say that the mice on a high-calorie diet were bigger. Well, let's think about that for a second. Bigger is not a measurement. That's just something you see. Or rather than saying something like the mice on the high calorie diet were chubbier or fatter, we can actually assign a value to that by weighing the rats or weighing the mice. And so a quantitative version of that statement would be that the mice on the high calorie diet weighed 400 grams more than the other mice, or maybe their circumference of their belly was 10 centimeters larger than other mice, right? If we are invoking some sort of measurement, that makes it a quantitative statement. And so the third example here just goes to illustrate that these quantitative measurements are important. For example, imagine someone gets pulled over by a police officer because the police officer thinks that the person is driving drunk. Now, this is a serious thing. Someone could get sent to jail here. They could hurt somebody. Their entire life could be ruined if they go to jail for drunk driving. So we don't want police officers just to pull people over and say, oh, I'll send you to jail because you just look drunk to me. We want to have a quantitative way of measuring how drunk or how intoxicated a person is. And that's what we have breathalyzers for. So we can say the person had a blood alcohol content of 0.05%. That is a quantitative measurement. And it's not based on anybody's judgment or anybody just kind of looking and saying it how it goes and things like that. But we can actually measure it, and it's objective in that way. Well, hopefully you have a better understanding now of what sorts of measurements are quantitative and what sort of measurements are qualitative.